Good afternoon. Welcome, everyone. This is the Marion City Council work session for Tuesday, April 18th. First item to be discussed on the agenda under police. Chief?
Good afternoon. First item we have is going to be a 3-year contract extension with Cedar Rapids Animal Care. There's really no changes to that other than the continuing practice of contracting with Cedar Rapids Animal Care to pick up animals from the police department that we recovered from the city of Marion.
Okay. I have a question on that, Chief. I've said in the past, about 5 years ago, my son was working in our garage, and he got attacked by a hybrid wolf dog. And thanks for the fire station, they taped him up till we got him to the hospital. But that dog had been run out of Cedar Rapids, and the guy brought it to Marion. And I would like to have something built in there of some kind of a notification when either us or them or Hiawatha or Robbins has a dangerous animal and may ask that they be removed from the community, that we have a consortium of agreement on that. And animal control could be in charge of that if you would ask them. I'd appreciate it.
I'd have to follow up on that. I don't think I can language that into this contract extension, but I can certainly have a conversation.
That dog went back to the breeder, and he attacked the breeder, and the breeder killed him. So he was a dangerous animal, you know.
Sure. Okay. And then the second resolution that we have is we are in the second of 5 years of a lease on a tower. As part of the contribution that Marion contributes to the 911 communications, we lease a space on a tower for a telecommunications device to transmit as part of the regional telecommunications system. And this is the extension, the first 5-year extension of a 20-year option. So we finished the first 5 years. We want to exercise the second 5 years of this lease to have the tower space for the telecommunications system.
Okay.
Does Marion actually get use of that tower?
We do not own the tower. We simply lease the space, and it was through the 911 board and the agreement that Cedar Rapids pays for space on, for example, 3 towers. The Sheriff's Department pays for space on towers, and this is the tower that we're obligated to pay the lease space for.
So this is the one over by Lindale, or?
It is on Berry Tower Road.
Yeah.
Berry Road Tower. It's the Berry Road Tower on, I think, Blair's Ferry.
Yeah, that's okay.
And then the third resolution that I have is we had a canine that reached the end of his life expectancy. He's still alive and healthy, but he can no longer function as a police dog due to health issues. And the monetary investment that we would make in this dog to keep it, it just doesn't make financial sense. And to give the council and the mayor some perspective, we currently utilize 4 canines on the police department. Looking at the operational efficiency of the police department, I'm going to reduce that number to 3. I feel it's a more efficient number to have one available on each shift. I'm going to keep 2 narcotics dogs and 1 bomb dog. Each dog will be cross-trained in the capability for patrol enforcement as well. Just in long-term cost effectiveness of the canine program, coupled with my desire not to do fundraisers for that program anymore to keep it sustainable, is the reason why we're going to go down to 3. But I'm going to have canine Bruno and his handler, Officer Gilson, here on Thursday, if you don't mind, and we're going to present him a picture and some dog bones and stuff like that, if you wouldn't mind just humoring me for just a few minutes.
Oh, great. The meeting I have to run that's going to the dogs.
So you're retiring this dog?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And what we're at, I should have been more clear. What I'm asking in this resolution is that we transfer ownership of the dog to the handler, with the restrictions that he can never sell the dog, give the dog away, or do anything for profit for the dog once he leaves our care and control.
Okay.
The fourth resolution that I have is we have a large garage door that leads into the basement of the police building. It was a garage door opener that wasn't designed for the constant up and down use that it gets daily. It is breaking. The internal mechanisms could go at any minute. It's rattling so bad that the building literally shakes when it goes up and down. We have an low estimate of $17,850 from a garage for overhead door. And then there's some additional electrical work that they'll do to accommodate the power load to that door. So that's the last agenda item that I will have.
Questions?
I had a line, does that building have any warranty, or is that expired, or?
This would be a wear item, so it wouldn't have been covered by the warranty anyway. The warranty, I think, was it was originally going to be a year from the date of occupancy, but because they finished up several items about 6 months after that, it was a year after that, so we're outside it.
Okay. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Questions?
That it? Okay.
Good afternoon, Your Honor, members of the council. I'm here on a terrific subject today. Fireworks issue. I just received word today that it went through the House, so it's been through the Senate and the House, and it is now on the governor's desk. And we do anticipate him signing the bill. So that puts the cities in a quandary as to how you want to limit the use of the fireworks, if you want to limit the use of the fireworks. We cannot limit the sale of, only in a certain way. So what this bill is saying is that you can use a temporary structure or a permanent structure. So a permanent structure like Hy-Vee, Walmart. Temporary structure would be the tents. And in talking with the other department heads, none of us really care to have tents throughout the city selling fireworks. They're dangerous. It'd be much better in a sprinklered, fixed building. So that's my recommendation for that. But as I'm up here, it's up to the council how you want to handle this ordinance. We are going to have to update our ordinance because we do have to allow the sale according to the way the state law is written. We do not have to allow the use of. Yes. So we
have a current ordinance that prohibits sale, and
Yes.
we need to change that.
Yes,
And then we need to decide
if you want to
how
allow
and
the firing
if
off.
and how we allow use.
In the state code, it states that they can fire them off. I do believe they can be sold June 1st through July 8th in a fixed structure, and temporary structure June 13th through July 8th. The use, though, well, it is the same. They did change that. The House changed that. So the use is the same days as they can be sold. There's a time limit. They can be fired off 9 a.m. to 10 p.m., except on July 4th it's to 11 p.m., and on New Year's Eve it's to 12:30 a.m. So that's the use area. So it's what, 5 weeks? And they can also be used December 10th through January 3rd. So that 4-week period there. That's the way the state code reads. Now the
Very
cities
limited.
need to decide if they want to just go by the state code or if they want to pass their own ordinance to limit the use of. In talking with Chief McHale, we discussed this. What would we like to see for Marion? And 2 weeks is what we thought would be a good limit. The week before, the week after, both. I had my fire marshal check with the metro area fire departments. The city of Hiawatha, they prefer to wait and see what Marion and Cedar Rapids is going to do. So they are just keeping their ban the way it's written in their ordinance now. So until they get a change from Marion or the community seems to want to change it, they're just going to leave them banned. Cedar Rapids is looking at the day before the 4th of July and the day after and the 4th. So the day before and the day after, a 3-day limit, both on January 1st and July 4th. It'd be just 3 days. So that's what they're looking at. So The reason I brought this to you is the way it looks, they want to go ahead and legalize them for this year. So we need to come up with something quickly. June 1st is close by. So I wanted to get your feelings on how you want the city to proceed, how you want me to proceed, what do you see the city allowing and not allowing. This is something we need to be thinking about. So I'm just here to get your feelings, what you would like me to do to go forward with an ordinance.
You want us to have a discussion now about it?
Yes.
Okay. How does everybody feel about it?
I would hope that our chiefs could come forth with an ordinance for us. They seem to have it under control, and something that we can debate and work at from there, right? I think it's a good idea we do it, but I think that they certainly are more knowledgeable than we are on the subject. A guy says it had a cherry bomb blow up in his hand one time. I think that our chiefs are perfectly capable of bringing us an ordinance if they have the time to do it.
Well, they both 2 weeks around the 4th of July is what?
I did a little bit of digging back, and over the past 5 years, we've issued 3 citations for fireworks, and I think we all know that the amount of fireworks that have probably been shot off in Marion. So it's unenforceable, even if you want to hold them to, we're not going to have any fireworks shot off. I would rather have a good ordinance that's manageable, that provides a high degree of safety, yet allows the citizens to celebrate with fireworks in a professional and safe manner for the community. So I think we could totally draft something for you to consider. We're just trying to look at for what the chief says is the direction you want to go.
And last year we did have 3 fires due to fireworks. So they weren't legal then, and we still had fires. So
Why would you, for the New Year's, why would you set off fireworks other than New Year's Eve? Anybody?
Like 3 days.
I don't see why you'd do it a week before, a week after New Year's.
From
Same reason
experience,
they do before or
if they
after
don't
4th of
have
July.
fireworks sometimes, the alternative are firearms. Just to throw that out there.
Of course, that's wide open now too, so.
Anyone else have an opinion on it?
Yes.
I kind of like what Cedar Rapids is doing, the 3 days. And so I think it would be kind of nice if Marion did the same as Cedar Rapids, make it nice. So.
I am totally against fireworks, only because I've had neighbors who terrorized animals and kids and, oh, look at that, watch them jump,
And it is a safety concern, of course, to me. My job is to protect the public. But this law has been passed by the state. You are the ones that answer to your constituents. That's why I'm not recommending one way or another. I'm letting you, what does our city want? And I will do my best to make it as safe as possible through the ordinance. But I just wanted to feel how you feel.
I mean, I think if it's going to be, if we have to allow it to be sold, it's going to be sold in our community. I think it's unrealistic to expect that people are going to buy it and go somewhere else to use it. So maybe providing some sort of reasonable window that, I would defer to your, personally, would defer to your opinion on that as the public safety officers.
Okay.
But to allow some sort of a reasonable window where people can use them within certain guidelines and safety rules of an ordinance. It would be nice if it was consistent with the surrounding communities, but I don't know if that's going to be achievable. But
Did
Okay.
the new proposed legislation, do they limit the type of fireworks that can be sold?
Yeah, there's 2 consumer types. Now, you have your professional displays, and displays are totally different. You have to be licensed by the
Licensed, yeah.
state fire marshal. But consumer uses, there's 2 classes. There's a Class 1 and a Class 2. The Class 1 is fireworks, Roman candles, bottle rockets, those kind of things. Class 2 is the sparklers and the things like that. So
All right.
there is 2 classes.
Okay, so like the cherry bombs or the M80s, I'm not sure if they still do those or not, and those are the ones that I don't know we
You
can
know too
control.
much about this.
You know, those are more concerning to me when you get to, you know, those items that.
Well, if this has to be done on a short-term basis, it seems to me that the 3 days would be sufficient. But also, if you could put some kind of a rider in there that, depending on the use and abuse, so that this is subject to change.
Fine.
It's always subject to change, I think, you know.
Well, what I mean is give it the 4th of July, give it the New Year's, and then reevaluate after that.
Okay.
I think we do need clarification from council on your point on the tents. I don't think that we can make a decision on whether or not to regulate a business with a tent. Is that,
Yes.
was that made clear?
Yeah, that's actually with, Mr. Trahern's not here tonight, but he is against using tents to sell them. Yeah, I was going to get to that after we get with the use.
So,
I guess,
First, I wanted to figure out the use, and then, yeah.
so you're saying prohibit the sale in the temporary structures?
Yes.
And that's okay to do that?
It's okay to do that, but you
Okay.
can't in a permanent
I would agree with
structure.
that. But, so the ordinance, I'm sorry, the law does not affect the professional displays, correct?
No.
It's only consumer use.
Yes, only
Okay.
consumer use.
So okay.
I guess.
Chief, do you, Mikhail, do you feel that if we do have an ordinance, which I think it's realistic that we should have something that actually addresses the use of over a period, a small window of opportunity for people to do that. Do you feel that outside of that window that people would use fireworks? Would you enforce that more? Would the police enforce that more when you have fireworks outside?
Most definitely, and I think the councilwoman's point is accurate. It does have a negative effect long-term on a community. I always dreaded having, letting my little dog out, because then she's done. Once she hears the first one, she ain't going out.
Yeah.
And so she brings up a very good point. But I think the mayor's point also that he brings up is they're going to buy it the week prior, and then they're going to have leftovers. And so for us to reasonably have an expectation of our community, if you're asking my opinion, the week before and the week after is what I think is what we can, as law enforcement, fairly and enforce on.
But I think what Dave is saying, you said, it hasn't been enforced, but with this new ordinance in place, where there is this window that allows people to use what they buy, will there be more rigorous enforcement?
I think
outside of
so,
that window?
because the frequency would definitely decrease. If we get people shooting them 2-3 weeks out, that's a whole lot different than the week before and the week after 4th of July when everybody's doing it, and typically they blow them all up, right? The ability for us to enforce that and the likelihood that they'll get complaints, I think, are higher.
So you're saying a week as opposed to 3 days?
That would be my personal opinion, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Weeks.
The week before and the week after, so it's actually 2 weeks.
But Cedar Rapids is approaching the 3-day.
That's what their fire marshal, they have not talked to the council.
Oh, they haven't, the council has,
That's
okay.
what they're proposing, yes.
I think Joe had some comments.
Is the county looking for something? Because what I can see is Marion is going to put the restriction on tents, and about 5 inches past the Marion border, there's going to be a tent set up there.
The discussions have been interesting amongst the metro fire marshals. In the county, no one wants the tents, so that's where we are so far.
But you haven't heard from the supervisors then whether they're going to do it. And as far as the number of days, I think 3. In our neighborhood, usually you hear stuff like New Year's, you hear it the day before, the day of, and then the day after.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, there's one about 2 days later. I don't know. They have some left, I guess. But,
Had them on sale.
I guess. But we just drove through Missouri today, and I mean they're like a half a mile into Missouri, and I mean it's a building larger than this building, full of them.
Yes.
And so that's what I'm afraid if the county doesn't do something you know, we're gonna have something set up right on the Marion city limits.
So the consensus I hear then is the 2 weeks, as we proposed, and I will go ahead and produce something to bring back
When are you bringing this back? This week, or are we talking next week?
the
Or
next council meeting.
Next council meeting.
Because it might be good to talk to
Yes.
the citizens before we.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'd
And I
like-
can always change the dates inside it.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we ought to get some feedback.
Get some
on it.
feedback from everybody, because
I,
we may think 3 days, but then you might talk to 20 people and they all say the whole time.
And maybe we can send the
I
actual,
mean, it's true.
law that was passed
yes, I will.
to the council, so we can see the actual language of what's in
Yep,
there.
I will do that.
Truly understand it, thank you.
So as for the use, we'll feel it out until next council meeting.
I wonder if
Correct.
there's something could be put into like the Marion Times and, you know, that we're considering this.
Yes.
Is there
That
time
way-
for that?
That
though?
way, then we'd start getting calls. I guarantee.
Well, they're going to hear it on the news anyway, once the
Well, yeah,
governor
but,
signs it, so they're going to
you know,
know it's coming.
Yeah, if we could get a
So you'll
press,
probably get calls anyway, but,
I guess a press release more likely.
Well, they want it in effect, the state wants it in effect for this June 1st,
Yes.
correct? So, yeah,
that's the way we understand it, yes.
Yeah.
We asked for a delay till next year, the fire chiefs, but it didn't happen. Okay, then my next question is about the tents. Do we want to ban the sale in temporary structures?
Temporary structures, does that mean like if Hy-Vee's selling fireworks, they put a tent in their yard or
Right.
in their parking lot?
Right.
Okay.
Oh, but just think what the havoc you could wreak with a tent. A
You want-
well-lit something, you know, just, but
Well,
I
think
didn't say
that's the
that,
chief's concern, so.
Exactly.
not me.
I
know
think
if you
the
saw
time
Mexico
allotted,
City.
though, a person wouldn't be able, they'd have to pay rent all year on a building. You know, you probably need to, chief, have some kind of a portable building that's suitable.
Yes.
Because, you know, you're not gonna ever have anyone if they have
Well,
to pay 12-month rent to use it 4 days, you know.
yeah, Tom Treharn, he wants it to follow the zoning ordinances, so to him, that's important.
Can you specify that it has to be in a building that has a sprinkler system?
We could.
That would be,
We don't have
I
any-
really see that as the only buildings that will do it anyway.
Probably the big box.
Yes.
Yeah.
well, they have the, you know, like, they have the Halloween stores or the Christmas stores that
Right.
are limited time for sale, so it seems to me that. would
That
be
might
an
eliminate those if you say it has to have a sprinkler system. I mean, do we want
Well, there's
those
that one
pop-up
on
stores?
First Avenue that is by, you know,
The mattress place, that was empty at the time, though, for Halloween. They rented that for 30 days, I think.
yeah.
Well, that's what I mean. Do we want a pop-up fireworks store just for the fireworks season?
Oh,
that
no, I
somebody
think,
from
no, that
wherever?
would be, I don't
Yeah.
think that would be a good idea. Like I said, just a single.
I'll put something together and
Okay.
I
be
like
in contact with you.
Chief,
Okay.
before you move on from that subject, if we could, Your Honor, I'd like to also pull in Parks and Green Space into the discussion. We discussed this with Park Board last week at their monthly meeting. They would like to see that fireworks would be prohibited within our Parks and Green Spaces, so we would want to include that within ordinance if we draft something and put that together.
That's a good point.
Yeah, only do it on your own property
It does say that.
in the law.
Yes. It cannot be on someone else's property. So to me, that would be public space too. but-
I think,
I would
though,
have
that
to-
we'd want to make that enforceable, so under the ordinance associated with park rules, that would end up being a scheduled fine within there, so I think that's where we would probably, I don't know, we could refer to legal for that, but I think that's probably what we'd like to do.
We'll add that just to be safe. Okay.
That's good.
Good.
Is there some sort of,
You have one more item. Oh,
is there some sort of, like a hard side building that's fire resistant other than a tent that wouldn't perhaps burn up if
A
the
metal
things-
building.
Yeah.
the temporary
We have
building
one
too.
downtown. It's Sheldon's old drugstore, the realtor office is a fire-resistant building.
Yeah.
That's the only
Concrete.
downtown building that's fire-resistant.
But, something that would contain it till you guys could get there or something, other than a tent.
It'll be gone.
The tent will be, you'll find just the ashes by the time you get to it.
The only thing we could try to save is the exposures
Right.
for any building they're put in, so.
But I would,
There would be no really,
like somebody
of
said,
the
if like
exact
Hy-Vee,
building.
the big box wanted to put something in their parking lot, if it could be a hard-sided building that would contain it till you guys could hose it down. No?
I would rather have them in fixed structures.
Okay.
So you can't just park a truck and sell it out of the
Right.
truck? Okay.
That's what we don't want to see.
Yeah.
Yeah. So would we want like a licensing fee for this or something?
The state has that.
Oh, do they?
I'm sure that's why they passed this law, is to make more money.
If
Now
they
it's
sell
And
more than 50% or fireworks, it's $1,000.
Ah, the truth is out there.
that's my thought.
Okay, next.
Number 6.
My next topic, also, I was going to have Tom join with me. You've been purchasing, the city has been purchasing a lot of properties lately, and we enjoy using those, the police and fire, for training. We get some fabulous training out of those buildings before they're demolished. Ventilation training, rescue of firefighters falling through a floor, and if we could burn them, that would be great too. But in the city, of course, with smoke, and we can't do that. But there was a property that recently was Winslow Road on that property. Tom's concern was that it seemed the interior was in pretty good shape. So we were wondering if we shouldn't get a policy, maybe, a city policy, on what the criteria needs to be for these buildings that are purchased, on how they can be used prior to demolition. So in other words, would you rather salvage the building? Would you rather have the building moved as we did on 35th and 29th? Would you, what is the criteria for those buildings? Or can police and fire go in, train, and we're going to tear them apart?
That's a good question.
Well, if the building is halfway, like decent as far as construction and all, why not try to sell it like we did on 29th Avenue? Of course, it was kind of a fiasco, but, but it would have to be moved.
That was Tom's concern
Because
with the council.
there are those 3 railroad houses that I'm thinking about on Fifth Avenue that I'm very concerned about.
Would it be easier just to, for every house, go through the 3 steps? First put every house up for sale, or if they want to move it, and then the other steps? I mean, for every, it might be easier that way.
Write the policy to that.
That would make sense.
The only thing with that is it would limit maybe the amount of time that we could,
Right.
if it did get down to the training, that would, and you need it demolished next week, it would really limit how much training we would get out of it
Your Honor.
on a
Well,
time limit.
what do you do when we don't have such, or what did you do before we had these houses? Or,
We asked planning if we could go play in it, and then,
no, I'm saying if there weren't any, what would you do if there weren't any houses like that?
we
Or
wouldn't
buildings
get
like that.
hands-on training.
You don't get training at all? You don't have any
We
alternate-
train, but we simulate.
Yeah.
I'll have to go somewhere else to get it.
We have to
Okay,
go
yeah,
somewhere
so-
else, and it takes
The one-
firefighters out of town.
Yeah, the one concern with going through the 3-level process, and I talked to Tom about this before, you could try to get them sold and moved. You have to put them out for bids. It takes 2 weeks to get those bids back, review them, get in front of council. There's a month gone. You could go and salvage. We salvaged a lot of buildings on the city hall property, and you put out the bids, see who wants to bid on what, and you got guys getting doors, windows, and vice versa. It's a huge undertaking to manage that from the staff level. A lot of time. I don't recall who did it when we did this block, but it's just trying to keep track of everything, making sure people that got the windows or getting the windows and not walking out with the doors, which I know did happen on this site. It's a lot of management. It's a lot of staff time devoted to it. You're saving some pieces, but the staff the dollars going out to manage that program is not gonna be a lot more than what we're gonna get for salvage out of these homes. Especially if you have to bid it, and then another month there, then we're down to deadline projects for Dan's projects to actually get the crews in there to get the project started, and then, like I said, the chiefs lose their opportunity to work on the fires or work on entry. And
the staff time is expensive. And when you asked, where do you train then, we have to travel then, and that's costly, paying overtime for the travel of the training if you want hands-on training. So it gets more costly, but we like to take this opportunity when you do have a vacant house that you're going to demolish anyway. It's a great opportunity for hands-on training for police and fire. So we just wanted to know if you wanted criteria.
I would like a process that if the house is good enough that somebody actually wants to buy and move it, to relocate it, that be allowed to happen first. And I get it when you're talking about salvaging like windows and doors and all that. I get the time involved in doing that, how much money you're going to gain from doing that. It's not worth it in my opinion. But if somebody wants to buy the house and move it, I would say that's great. Let's have that happen because we're talking about taxpayer dollars here that purchase, and you're able to get something back from it. But when we're talking about then beyond that, if nobody is going to move it, then I would say, it is going to be a value to our police and fire to have those homes to be able to work in and practice in and train in, and that is a value, and that we could at that point in time use those homes for that.
And you could kind of flip those last two steps where you do your training, and if afterwards there's still anything salvageable, then before you tear it down, people can salvage what they want, materials or whatever, doors or windows, or if there's still anything in there that is left, that's
probably won't be.
I don't want to speak for Tom, but his concern is that who decides that the house is salvageable, or you want to try to sell it and move it? Who's going to determine that? And that's kind of where we were at. We need the council.
Staff time it's spent there on that. Is that the concern?
Yes.
Yeah. Somebody making that determination and then going through the process of getting the word out and
that was his concern.
Managing that whole process. Okay.
Can it be done on an individual basis, though? I mean, if it is a nice house, then maybe we need to look into possibly selling it.
The Winslow Road is a good example. To Tom, that's a house that has some nice things in it that could be maybe moved. And it's a perfect opportunity for us to burn because it's out away from the communities. So
one on Indian Creek Road.
That's why we wanted to ask you.
There's one on Indian Creek Road that sits back there as well.
Put fireworks in it.
I think the building department certainly could kind of appraise whether or not a house is capable of being moved and what isn't. I don't know what you do about windows and doors. Habitat for Humanity might come and get them and something like that. But I think the fire department should have the opportunity to use those for training until we build our training center.
Exactly.
I mean, there's got to be some sort of middle ground where, you purchase a house that the city's going to need the land and the house can't stay there. Then there's some sort of, window where you put out, a request for offers or something like that and see what comes in. And if, they come in and it's obvious that you're not going to really make, it's not going to be worthwhile financially to do it. And it makes more financial sense to allow the departments to train in it, than that. I mean, does that make sense?
Yes. That's kind of the sense I wanted to get. If it does seem salvageable, maybe we should look at that option And
Just,
Yeah.
you know, I don't know if
And then
it's
if
1
it's
month or something like that, you,
obviously not, we'll just go ahead and use it for training.
yeah, put out a
Maybe
request
we
for
can come up with
offers from
something for
people.
that. Yes.
Do the moving and salvage at the same time, you know? Does anybody want to move it? Anybody want parts, you know? At the
I'll
same-
work with Tom and try to come up with something
make
that
it quick.
incorporates both sides then.
Make it quick. I mean, if we know we're buying something, you can have the proposal prepared for the day that the city owns it, and in 2 weeks. If no one wants it in 2 weeks, or no one offers anything for any of it in 2 weeks, then
Well, to Tom's credit, he was uncomfortable even if the house was not salvageable, you know, allowing us to go ahead and train without it's actually property that you purchased. So he would like to see a city policy.
totally makes sense.
Okay,
We'll work on that then.
thank you,
I
Chief.
think I got your sense.
Got a lot of work to do.
Thank you very much.
Okay, engineering. Oh, we have parks first? I'm sorry, I skipped parks. Sorry, Mike.
Close enough.
Good afternoon. First item that I had highlighted on the agenda is renewal of our service agreement for tree removal and trimming. Currently, we're under a service agreement with Breeden Tree Service. They've been our provider of that service probably for over 15 years. We look at the agreement. It has an automatic annual renewal as long as both parties agree to the content of the agreement. I typically will review that, bring it up to date every 3 years, and bring it back before the council on a 3-year time frame. We did some language updates to the agreement this year. Most of that was updating the tree inventory information, which we had within the agreement. And then we took out a lot of the agreement, referred to the city forester or director. We put in language associated with the city arborist in there now that we have that position on staff. No changes to cost associated with the removals or trimming in the agreement. So reviewed it with the tree board at their meeting this month, and they are recommending approval of the agreement. And that's something that I look at every year, and then I sign the renewal agreement before council.
Mike, these guys do like a storm damage trimming and all that as
Yes,
well?
yep. We use them mainly we use them for large tree removal. Within the agreement, we talk about storm damage and response. There's language in the agreement for that also.
Yeah, so they have their own bonding, so if like, you know,
Yep, bonded and insured.
If they're working on behalf of the city and the thing falls on their house.
Yep. We require that they provide all their insurance information to us on an annual basis. They have to bring that policy forward to make sure it's updated. And
not that trees never fall the way you want.
Well, if you've used them for 15 years, you're obviously happy with the service and you have a good working relationship with them.
Yeah, correct. It's been a good long-term relationship between the city and Breeden. And typically, over those years, they have always been the low bidder when we go out to rebid it. Last time we did that was in 2014.
They've been the low bidder, you said?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions on that one? Okay.
The next item that I had on the agenda, that is a memorandum of agreement with the Lynn County Conservation Board and the city, and it's associated with the Waldo's Rock Park project and providing access. This is the Grantwood Trail here, Waldo's Rock Park, and then we're going to provide access into the park from the Grantwood Trail. So this small section right here, it's about 20 foot by about 70 to get to the trail. Basically, the agreement provides the access between the two parties to make that connection.
Is that a hard surface?
It will be. We will everything within the park itself will be hard surfaced, and the connection to the Grantwood Trail will be hard surface also. We're also trying to work with Lynn County Conservation as the Grantwood Trail project continues our segment, and then their segment on from Highway 13 to the east, try to have that hard surfaced at least up to Waldo's Rock Park, is the intent that we're trying to work with Lynn County.
How
on.
expensive?
For
The connection.
The connector.
just the little connector, I really couldn't give you the actual amount of that. But again, we're doing this all in-house, so it's just the cost of the materials itself.
Okay.
We're putting in the connection, not.
We
not-
are putting in the
not
connection, yes.
And this was just their agreement to allow us to do that.
To allow us access and then
To
just add some
connect
more.
to the trail.
That's correct.
How much does that park cost us altogether, minus your,
What's that?
how much have we spent out of our checkbook?
Well,
Not
to
much.
date, we're right just a little above 100,000 that we've invested in the park to date. Of that, again, we secured a $150,000 REAP grant for that park development, but we still have several items yet to complete with the overall project.
Basically, that park's gonna cost the city nothing by the time we're done with it.
Oh, I wouldn't say that it will not cost us anything. With the rest of the improvements that we have to do, I had the overall project estimated at around $245,000, I believe, is what we had in there. So with the asphalt work, some of the enhancements to the pavilion yet to be done, the electrical, the lighting of the park road, parking lot coming in, stocking the pond, those type of things, the prairie grass seeding, which we're working out some things associated with that, looking at, hopefully that the prairie grass seeding, that'll be paid for through the relationship with the Monarch Research Project. And then we'll also see what we can do as far as the stocking of the pond, trying to work with the DNR right now to see if they can provide some of those things and any other type of trees that we're going to do our spring 1 day in May planting. That is all provided through the grant with the branching out, supported by Alliant Energy. So we're trying to find those other things out there that we can help to leverage the cost of the park development project.
Okay. Other questions for Mike on that one? Any questions on anything else on the parks agenda?
Yes.
I guess there's one.
Something just came to mind. Do we have bike racks there at the pavilion, or police to park a bike at the Waldo's Rock Park?
Did you say bike racks?
A bike rack, so they.
We will have, as part of the amenities associated with the project, there will be bike racks.
Okay. All right. Very good.
But no restrooms, right? Bike racks, but no restrooms.
It'll be portable.
I'm sorry?
It'll be portable.
Okay. Bring your own.
Your Honor, under engineering, item number 2 is a resolution for a change order having to do with our sidewalk ramp repair project. On March 9th, we took bids for this project, which is our annual program. The budget for that program is $95,000 annually. We did receive a bid at about 84% of that budget amount. So what we're recommending, because of the overwhelming amount of ramp work that we have scheduled over the next 30 years, we would suggest or recommend that we add some of those locations back into our budget. The contractor's willing to do that at unit price, so he's willing to do an extra $15,000 as part of that contract, and we're just asking for your approval on that to amend that contract to include that amount.
So where that money is not currently budgeted? Is that?
It is budgeted.
It is budgeted.
Yes. We have $95,000 budgeted for that program.
Okay.
We have a bid of $79,452.
All right.
And we're going to add to that.
So you're saying redo this though and not rebid it though?
Right. We would do it. He was the low bidder. He had very good prices. We'll add these items at those same unit prices. Just adding to the size of the scope, not changing the amounts.
How many more ramps will be done?
Within the memo there's places at Starry Park. We're doing some work at Fire Station 1, corner of Grand Avenue and Elam Drive, the corner of Grand Avenue and 8th Street, the corner of Grand Avenue and Valley Park Street, 3rd Street, and 9th Avenue Alley. So actually a lot of these are locations that are, I would say, somewhat related to city facilities also at the Fire Station 1 and so forth. So they're high priorities. We picked other locations that were, I want to say, closer. We like to keep the contractor in one area, but we did pick ones that were high priorities.
Yeah. I'm wondering if it wouldn't be better that if this wasn't worded as a change order to the original, if we're not going to rebid it.
We do change orders all the time. That is the legal action council takes for our extra work orders.
Okay.
It's our standard. It's our standard language. I'm just saying.
Okay.
So
I just
it
don't
may not
want
make sense,
a
but
contractor to say, hey, you know, if we rebid it, we would have done it for that. Or,
They had their chance on the original bid.
well,
yeah, no, and they've agreed to do it, and we could go back out for bids, but this guy probably wouldn't bid it, and
well, I
we
was
probably
thinking
wouldn't.
if the Hunt came back and said, hey, we've got this change order to add these to it. Can you make it for under the 95, whatever, $95,000? It's just a question, really.
That-
We've done
that's,
this.
That's in essence, is what he's doing.
I know, but wording-wise, it isn't. Wording-wise, we just said, okay, you know, add this on to it. Maybe,
We can amend the contract. I mean, we can do whatever you want, I guess. For us, this is what we've standard used. We either use this or an extra work order, but an extra work order is usually something that is not anticipated, and it's something that happens on site that is not anticipated, where we're actually making amendment to the contract for scope.
You'd have a change order if it was 120,000 instead of 95.
right.
You know, it could have gone the other way, but.
Well, if you guys have done this in the past, I don't remember any.
I mean, Joe, is your concern, do you think that if it went back out for bid, that somebody else might be the low bidder because there's more work to do? Is that?
Well, it's just the fact that they weren't given the chance to add on to these other.
You think that would change their
Other
bid
bidders.
per
Oh, I
unit?
see. Okay, I wasn't following what you were
Yeah.
I was
asking.
trying to get to what his concern is. So
We normally, if the contract changes more than 25% in scope, we would go back out. We would probably amend it. State law actually kind of, I think, has something in it, or the DOT has something that if you change the scope by 25%, you should always rebid it. But there's no legal, I'm pretty sure, no legal recourse that any of the other bidders would have based on this amount of scope change.
All right, that's what I wanted to hear.
Sorry, I was not following you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I
Yes.
appreciate it. Bear with me, I've been driving all day.
Makes sense. Good question, though.
okay. Where's 9th Avenue Alley?
Oh, on 9th Avenue.
trying to-
I think it's in the uptown area, but I'm not sure exactly. I can find out for you, though.
I can drive by there too.
Unfortunately,
I can drive by there too and see.
Okay.
parking lot's not included.
So item number 5 is basically just a discussion or an update for council having to do with the new project at Highway 151 and 13. This is the site. Some of you remember it as the driving range. Some of you may remember it as something before that. Basically, this is Highway 13, Highway 151, Tennessee here. They're looking at new development in this area. As part of that, they're going to be pushing basically a lot of the dirt from the north down to the south up against the waterway here. They're not going to be in the waterway because there's wetlands in there. As you can see by the blue line, there is a flood plain. There is no floodway associated with this property. We do allow filling in the floodway, so they have requested, and we will, unless council has a problem, We will issue a fill in the floodway or floodplain permit, which is what I do regularly. Allows them to fill basically up to the pink line. This is the bottom of the waterway down here, the black line. So they will be staying out of the creek. I guess I would put it's the east branch of the Squaw Creek. So they would fill up to this point. There's only a couple feet of fill that goes in there, but it allows them to flatten the site so that they can get the streets and the buildings and so forth in and out there. I think the latest bid is $35 million or $38 million for this project. So unless there's concerns about that, we'll proceed with issuing that permit.
You go out and look at that last Saturday when you had the big rain?
You know, actually I was out of town, so.
I was too, but I wondered what it did.
We had a lot of erosion, I think, along the trails. Yeah, some. We've had several calls yesterday and today about people with water in their yards and so forth. And we always get those after a big heavy rain. So. Item number 6, we had an executive session regarding the acquisition of property associated with the Armar Drive. I really didn't bring any illustrations, but we are proposing that we go ahead with the acquisition of the right-of-way at a cost of $413,590. As you can see by the memo, the current preliminary estimate for construction of Armar Drive is $584,000. Puts this project at a little over $1 million for about 400 feet of paving. It's expensive, but I think it's the only way this project will move forward. So I guess we're looking for approval of making that payment. It looks like approximately $718,000 could possibly be recovered through assessment or hookup fees associated with the development of the property. Maybe a while before we get those, but they will be hanging out there as a liability against the property.
So is the right-of-way that we will add, is that all in Marion, or is it, there's not a Cedar Rapids?
All the right-of-way we're buying will be in Marion. There'll be about 20 to 30 feet of paving that will actually be in Cedar Rapids. But the right-of-way already exists in Cedar Rapids.
So we can recover that through hookup fees, or is it we think we can cover that hookup fees?
We think we can recover it through hookup fees.
Okay, because that's okay.
We know that's a big part of it. We've been unable to really clarify that very well, but we have not found anything that restricts us from doing that.
How many feet was that, Dan?
Pardon?
How many feet is that road?
It's just right at 400.
400.
113,000.
That's terrible.
No.
Questions, concerns?
Now, this is the Roush property, right?
That is correct.
I will be voting no on that. Mainly because since there is no, for sure, why should the city pay for it when the developers are the ones that want it, and probably they could get a better financial deal with the family than obviously we have. Maybe they could pay the what their suggested amount was, the 290-some thousand, as opposed to 413. I'm sorry, it's just that I don't know what's going to happen worldwide anymore, and I think we're getting way ahead of ourselves.
As I stated in the meeting, Armar Drive is part of our network. It's been under construction since the 80s. The first phase was built in the 80s. It's always been the plan of the city to connect it. I know it's gotten a lot more expensive than we anticipated that it would. It is my recommendation to go ahead with it. However, the world ends tomorrow, we won't need it.
The speed limit through there, is that 25 or so down through there?
Either 25 or 30.
So it'd be slow enough that they'd still, if they want to come around, they'd want to go around and come down, use that as a bypass.
Absolutely. The phasing at First and Collins is those are all separate legs, and that takes, I don't know, 2 to 4 minutes to cycle through, so you may very well save time by using RMR coming out, especially depending on where you're going. It would be definitely an advantage.
Yeah, that's what I wouldn't want it to turn into as a bypass road.
It will.
Yeah, the signals are already in, they're ready to go. It's just a matter of adding a turn lane on Highway 100 and then adding dedicated left turn and paving on RMR.
Like I said, I would feel much better knowing that the hookup fees, ability to do that was for sure that we could do that. I would feel a lot better knowing that. So.
Okay, well, we'll put it on the agenda for approval or denial on
I think
Thursday.
the important thing is that we were budgeted at 700 and some thousand to do that road, is that right?
650, I think.
So
Yeah, it's 650 currently in the CIP. We would probably have to go, either back to Lost or someplace to finance the entire project.
have to not do another road or something.
Yeah, we would change.
If Lost doesn't have the money,
Yeah, we could change priorities. We just haven't looked at that yet because we're not really, once the right-of-way is approved, if it is, we'll look at that direction. Any other questions?
How much room is there for development around
There's
the part we're putting in?
We looked at a decent-sized building on the west side, that small triangle there that's 0.61 acres, I think, is big enough to place a decent-sized building. If you know the building across the street, that's the dentist, I think, Dr. Grimes. That lot is almost exactly the same size as the lot west of Armar within the Roush property. The piece east is still good size. It does fall off to the creek, but with some grading, they could get in several acres in there to build. You're not going to put a Walmart or some big box in there, but a medium-sized box could go in there.
So there'll be hookup fees, plus eventually there'll be taxes collected on
Absolutely
the property.
Yep.
But right now, we aren't paying any taxes on it because
Well, they're paying.
They're
property
paying the
taxes.
taxes.
They're paying
yeah.
property taxes. Yeah.
I think we ought to just let them keep paying it.
And there was no plans of development yet, correct? Nothing has come in for.
No, they've had offers over the years. I think can't think of what was in there. They've had a couple offers that they've turned down over the last couple of years. This does put a huge liability against the property, so whether somebody wants to make that commitment or not is another part of it.
I just wanted to add some context quickly as it relates to development on this street. I think sometimes we don't necessarily remember as we're talking about this area that we have one of our largest employers in the entire community stuck back there in U.S. Cellular. And we talk regularly with the owner of that building as they continue to make sure that we keep that company happy. Access is a big deal. Another thing, obviously we have the KTOS building, the former KTOS building, which, if I'm correct, with how that's been occupied in the past, that has not been a property that has generated property tax revenue because it's been utilized by Kirkwood. We probably have some news that we'll be sharing with this council in the next couple of weeks related to that changing, so that property will be becoming on the tax rolls. And at the same time, over 100 employees that will be in that location. So this is very much so a critical employment center back there. And the connectivity of this road is really not just about that property, but about making sure that we can continue to serve really the growing amount of traffic. And I think new tax base that we'll see just by the nature of a new company moving into that facility. So just a little bit of context, because I think sometimes we don't see the users and really the high amount of jobs that exist with really only one access point that exists back there. So, sorry.
Yeah, appreciate it. Sometimes I just look at the project and not the big picture, so Nick helps with that.
Whether they can get to it easily or not. So.
Any other questions? Last item is item number 7. This is a TAC report only in the sense that Everybody's aware of the new Longfellow School, which is going where the old Kirkwood was, the Kirkwood building. This is 10th Avenue, 29th, I think, street here. We're looking at this location right in here with the new building, which is not on this photo, but is in this area. So I have that here. As part of the site plan, we did approve, but I wanted to make sure we had Traffic Advisory Committee and Council support for the fact that the building is in this area right here. They're proposing a bus pull-off that would be on the south side of 10th Avenue and a pedestrian crossing in this location mid-block, which would include a pedestrian beacon. Those are all being provided by the school, by Marion Independent School System. Just so you're all aware of that, we have, like I said, it's part of their site plan improvements. Has been basically approved through our other process, but I want to make sure that everybody was clear in this process as well. So, questions on that?
Is there car access back in there for like pickup for the children?
All their access is from the back. So this is their new parking lot area here.
Oh, okay. So
They have two accesses. They'll have two instead of just one. They're going to keep all their parents and school cars back here, and then the buses will be pulling off on the other end. So they'll separate the bus from the parents. We're supportive of that. That's all I have. Thank you.
I have a question about something else, totally.
Sure.
I think Joe's question is about this project.
Oh.
Well, it's it has to do on 10th Street and the medical. Are they going to have an ambulance pull in? A long time ago, they were planning to put a ambulance pull in off of 10th Street.
10th Avenue? We had some discussion with them probably 8 months, a year ago. We put some stipulations with that, and I think they've backed off of that idea.
Okay.
I've not heard any more.
So that wouldn't, I was thinking if they did that, that might interfere with these people trying to get in and out of that.
They were having ADA issues, I think, with getting ambulance patients into that side of the building from the street, I think was the biggest problem.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay.
On Industrial Avenue, they're putting up storage garages.
Yes.
Is there a retention basin going in there? Mainly because what I hear from the people that have businesses there, all the water is being directed to the street, which is after the rain of last week, they're getting flooded.
They would be required to meet our stormwater management code, which would require a basin over 11,000 square feet. I can get that answer for you specifically, but I'm almost positive that they are.
That they will be?
Yes.
Okay, so I can contact those folks and tell them
Let me confirm that, but they're doing something as far as stormwater management, whether that's a basin or whether it's under parking or something else. I need to look into that.
But you'll have that information on Thursday.
Yes.
I will hold you to it. Thank you.
Always do. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
First item is the preliminary plat associated with the 13-151 development. Dan had just briefly touched on it with regards to the floodplain, filling in the floodplain on the site. The developers, the plat's in your packets, a little cumbersome on the overhead, but this is a 16-lot subdivision for commercial, office, as well as some residential. I think we've all seen the color rendering, which wasn't included, but I think everybody's familiar with the property. They will be beginning first phase this summer, probably west toward Highway 13 on this half, and possibly extending the road, one road out to Hennessy, or sorry, 62nd Street or Cherokee, I think is what it's called, to the east. Preliminary plat has been very consistent with the zoning. It's been consistent with the concept plan they submitted some time ago, along with the rezoning that will be getting its final reading on Thursday. So the Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend approval.
Questions?
Next item was item number 4. This is a final plat of Sunny Ridge Villas. This is a replat of the Prairie Ridge development that was just done last year. The developer is doing those 3-story apartments, condos that are similar to the Boyson Road project that I think most people are familiar with. Last year when the property was platted, it was platted as one large lot. Circle in red there off Bison Court, which goes down to the senior apartments on the south end there. It was part of this larger development of single-family homes. The developer's come back and he needs to subdivide that one large lot into 4 lots to to meet some ADA requirements that have been placed on him. Divide it into 4 lots allows him to address those a little easier and without as great as expense. So each building will have its own lot. They will be served by an internal and private drive. So nothing's really changed other than putting 2 lines on the existing plat. Any questions on that one? Next item, 10 and 11. These are associated with the Meyer Veterinary Clinic, the relocation from its 15th and 6th Avenue location to the Meadowview down off East Post Road and Meadowview Drive. Item number 10 is related to the purchase of the property in an amount of $161,100. And item number 11 is the relocation assistance for $67,822 and some change. In the staff report, there was the breakdown of those estimates with the low bid to get to that number. I do have a couple of I got a couple copies of all the bids submitted for that project. If anybody would like a copy of those tonight, I do have those. So staff is recommending approval of both the purchase at the $161,100 as well as the relocation assistance at the $67,000 and some change. Any questions? All right. Item number 12. This is part of the 26th Street or Marion Iron roundabout location. It's a plat of survey for 26th Street, including all of its right-of-way, highlighted in red just east of Salvation Army. The city has begun the vacation process of this street. It did get approved at the Planning and Zoning Commission. The plat of survey just creates a parcel that we can then transfer to the future owner per the agreement we have with regarding the roundabout construction. The second one is kind of related but not is item number 13. This is another plat of survey for a portion of property that was on the Marion Iron site but just east of the roundabout here for Genesis Equities, the small piece of excess Marion Iron property. They're retaining that as part of the project, with us, of course, getting the right away. So they're just creating a plat of survey for that little lot, again, so they can have a parcel that can then transfer as needed. They will have to final plat that lot prior to any development. Same with the right-of-way of 26th Street. That will have to be final platted in the future. The plat of survey is just the mechanism to allow the transfer of property. Questions on those? Great. Number 14, I'll have Kesha address regarding the encroachment to the right-of-way. I'll let her go into that. And then number 15, I think we've already discussed that at length with the chief's presentation. So unless there's more, I won't be coming back up for that one.
Your Honor,
Yes, ma'am.
I need to ask a question about the streets plan that is going to be asphalt, does that include?
It goes back to Dan, right?
Yeah. Does that include curbs when you do asphalt?
No, we do not. Our overlay program only includes the surface, the asphalt surface for the project.
Well, at a request of a resident on 7th Street, I drove by there and those curbs are in miserable condition.
Curbs are constructed within Public Service Department. We no longer do, as engineering, do curb projects.
Okay, so, but no provisions are being made for remedy of the broken curbs and
No, we never have. A concrete pavement transfers load out to the curb and gutter, and that's what the curb's there for, as well as stormwater in certain situations. Asphalt overlay does not transfer load to the curb section. So as we overlay streets, it's a short-term 8 to 10 to 12-year solution. So we do not address the curbs because it's really just aesthetic when it comes to curb repairs. So we have not ever done that as part of our asphalt overlay program.
oh, I'm sure there's going to be people in discussing this.
I heard from the same party, and I talked to Ryan a minute ago.
Yeah, I talked to Mr. Sprague as well, and I told him we do a curb program, but it's limited. We have limited staff and limited budget. If the council wants to direct us to do something, we'd be more than happy to. We just got to find the money to address it with.
It's bad.
That's not the only street
Mr.
that's bad.
Sprague will be here Thursday night, and he has some photographs that will show that, and that'll be fine.
There's a lot of places throughout the city that
Oh,
have.
yeah. But no, I didn't know if asphalt covered that or not, but if it doesn't, it doesn't.
Might ask Ryan what happened when he hit it with a snowplow last winter.
Yeah, actually, on that street, we dinged a snowplow pretty good. The remaining brick streets and a lot of those older streets have that older curb profile. There's a big need for curb repairs in the city. Again, we can do it. It's going to take us a long time to do it with our staff. We can look at options, which we do have options, but if the council wants us to direct us to look at that, we'd be more than happy to.
We previously, council budgeted about $75,000 a year, and we did a limited program. We have not done it for a long time. If council would like to direct us to add to the CIP some kind of extensive curb repair program, we'd be more than willing to do that we would contract or do internally. It's just a matter of the money and what the priorities are for that money. So.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Would the asphalt hold up as being a curb if they did that as an overlay?
You know, if we have an area that maybe has 2 or 3 chips out of it, they'll get the contractor to make a kind of an asphalt fill-in curb there. It may last a long time, it may not. We're paying by the ton, but it's not convenient for the contractor to do that. Not efficient, I guess I'll say, for him to do that while we're overlaying. But we have in the past. If we have a chip here, a chip there, we might do that. But with a project like this, we would not be able to.
Okay.
Kesha.
Number 14, I was looking through where we save all of the staff reports. Did everyone get a copy of G14? My apologies. No, I printed one off for everybody. I know that some of you did.
Got it. You got it? It wasn't in the packet.
My apologies for that. But essentially, so I'll walk through kind of the nature of the request. The purchasers of the property are in the audience if anybody has any questions. So the request comes from the business owners of My Cairo. If you'll note, they are located in strip mall on the south side of 7th Avenue, west of Country Kitchen. There's My Cairo Asian restaurant, and then Money business there. They're being relocated out of their building. They've been recently notified that their lease is done at the end of May because Anytime Fitness is moving into that building because Anytime Fitness is being currently out of their building that they're in over here at the strip mall. And so their desire is to move quicker, if possible, on this property. And so what the request is, and unfortunately, the scanned images don't necessarily do a good representation. So you've got the house here. This is, there was an old, a former Asian massage business out of there. To the west of this, you've got like a car repair place. There was a massage business out of there, and then you've got like the Edward Jones and the Old Fashioned Park Kitchens property. What their request is to encroach into the former railroad right-of-way that is now owned by the city of Marion, approximately 15 by 78 feet. And in my staff report, I explain that this area that they're requesting to encroach into is actually gravel now and is assumed to have been used for parking without the city's knowledge. Somewhere between 2000 and 2005, the aerials kind of show that it wasn't there, and then all of a sudden this gravel area was there, and it's been maintained as such since that time. And so their request is basically to be able to encroach into that, what has been used as parking since early 2000s. And you can see the property to the east here that was Old Fashioned Park Kitchens does actually extend further, not necessarily into the right-of-way, but that property extends further south, and the trail alignment would be further south on the old railroad alignment. So it's not anticipated that this parking area would impede any type of construction with the trail project. And so as part of their submittal, they've attached a letter, and then they've also included a number of exhibits of kind of attachment A shows ideally how they would lay out parking if they were forced to use the existing paved area, and they would fall short on their parking requirements for an office use. The attachment B just kind of shows the gravel area, once again, that is currently or was being used. Attachment C is their proposed parking. They would be required to have 9 stalls in there, but the way that the proposed parking would allow for drive-in parking to face south, they'd be able to have drive-in parking facing north and have like a true drive aisle through there to allow for parking. The attachment D just shows the offset in the property lines for the other properties. And then attachment E is just the contours of that property. And so in order to allow for the encroachment into the city right-of-way, we thought it was going to be as simple as putting it on the agenda. We've been informed by legal that we will need to set a public hearing, and then ideally we'd like that to be on Thursday's agenda for setting the public hearing for the next council meeting.
Because essentially they're asking for an encroachment easement, which is a property right, which we should have a public hearing.
Right. This is what we've been, yes.
Okay.
And so staff doesn't feel that it will impede or...
Will the easement be personal to this owner, or will it run with the land forever and ever and ever?
And we can draft it to be with this business. Their intent is to pave into their, we would require any paving stalls to be hard surfaced. And so it's kind of tough to say that it's a temporary use, although we're requiring permanent parking.
I mean, if that building's ever demolished and redeveloped along with the property next to it or something like that, I mean, you never know. I mean, I wouldn't personally be in favor of making it
a temporary
permanent easement. That I wouldn't be in favor of making it a permanent easement that runs with the land. That,
okay.
I mean, let the next owner can ask for it, because I mean, that property may be reconfigured at some point with property next to it or something like that, and you may not need that easement anymore.
Absolutely.
My other question is, will they pay anything for this easement? Anybody think of that?
It was not anticipated. I don't know if we've accepted payments for encroachments
usually
before.
Well, yeah, so I don't know what I was just asking the question, I don't, I mean, typically if you're giving away a property right, somebody would pay something for that. But I don't know what the city's policy has been, so.
I do know that we have a policy on the sale of city property as far as when we vacate alleys and we do deed those over to someone. But as far as property rights, I'm just trying to think of encroachments that we allow in the right-of-way for the property owner that wants to encroach into, wants to mow their grass an extra 10 foot into a drainage area. We allow that encroachment, but I don't know that we ask for any monetary value in return.
I don't think we have a policy addressing that unless Lon knows of something, but I'm not aware of anything, and I'm not sure that we've ever. We did for a permanent easement for the power lines through Willow Park, we charged for that. That's the only thing I know of while I've.
I mean, essentially, you're taking this out of public use. I mean, it's going to become a parking lot for a private business. I don't know, just that's a consideration. You're going to look at all this, right? So you can, I'm just bringing up the question. It might make sense.
If you look at to the properties east of that, has there already been easements granted?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
Because it looks like to me the properties going east already in the.
But those are the lot lines that you see. So they're just
Right,
different.
and so what he's talking about
Their lot
is
lines
this
are
property directly east of this one. It
Yeah.
appears like they have pull-in parking that's east-west, but then like they're back, like there's that little
Yeah.
kind of hammerhead
That's
turnaround.
Right, Exhibit E on this.
That,
And it looks like that continues going east further. I mean, almost looks like that's the case.
going east further, the property lines are further
No.
south, and so.
Are they? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, got it.
And so that's why I was explaining that this one actually is a legal
Yeah.
parking area, just because their lot lines were further south.
And it is possible, with this being former railroad right-of-way, that there could have been old pre-existing leases that the railroad had with adjoining property owners. When we acquired the property in 2003, the railroad notified all property owners and canceled all leases. So anything that would have been down there that would have been negotiated, who knows how long ago, would have come off the books at that point when we took title to the property. So some of those ones where you can see them may very well have been done on a leased parcel, but now we're the owner.
That, I think that hill, doesn't that go up the hill? If it's coming out of the screen, would they need some sort of
Maybe
wall or something?
It does in their last exhibit that they show, does show the property here, and then what would be their gravel parking area. But it does show that there is a relatively flat area that they would be utilizing for the parking area, and that is something that we've told the business owner that is seeking this request, is that we would anticipate any needed improvements to the railroad right-of-way to accommodate that parking would be on them. So we wouldn't anticipate, with the decent amount of flat area that there is to the south of that property, we wouldn't necessarily anticipate a lot of, like, say, retaining wall or any type of fence. But as we proceed going forward with the trail alignment to the south of that, we would not want to have additional expense on the city's behalf to accommodate their parking area to the north. And so I've reiterated that to the proposed business owner, is that we'd want some sort of a stipulation in there that the city is not required to pay for any type of improvements to accommodate their parking. But again, we wouldn't anticipate those, as we'd anticipate the trail to be further south and not anticipate a lot of grading that would affect their property or the parking.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to confirm.
Yeah, that's correct. I think she's covered it. Just for Joe's question, the toe of the slope is at the backside of the gravel parking area now, so they would be able to pave that at the current grade and not change anything there. So it would not impact the forest slope of the railroad right away.
Yeah, the reason I ask that is going through the trail, is there anything that we would have to do going on the north slope? Because it's about a 16-foot difference there.
Well, the only thing we don't know yet is as trail requirements continue to change, because that's a DOT project or it's a funded project, we're looking at probably a 10-foot surface, but we're also looking at might even be looking at shoulders, we may be looking at clear zones. There might be different things that we would have to widen the top of that trail out. We could also lower it to do that. But we just want to cover our future costs and say that they would be responsible for that if something would happen. So, and I think she's done that. So
that's where I was headed, to make sure that we aren't liable for something that we do on the trail. That they come in the next day and their whole parking lot's under dirt there.
So if the council's okay with this, we'd have setting the public hearing on Thursday's agenda, and then the public hearing would be on the next agenda. So the public hearing would be the first meeting in May, which would allow them to get parking in there and hopefully be able to move shortly before or after the end of their lease expires at the end of May.
Did you consider a lease?
We had not discussed that.
When we lease other city property, I just putting these things out there for consideration.
I'd say this one is
concerned about precedent and staying consistent with how we do things.
Now, this one is pretty unusual because most of the encroachment agreements and things that we see are people, for example, wanting to put a fence into a drainage area or something like that, where it's probably it's behind their property and not something that's publicly available. Use. And those are always done with the understanding that if we need to come in and do something, that we have the right to remove it and we're not responsible for putting it back. I think there might be one other one kind of like this that I can think of. Dave, you might recall the sign at the American Legion. Is that not on city property under an encroachment agreement?
The sign might be. I think Legacy's old sign is in the right of way too, where the recycling facility is now. They're definitely in the right of way.
Yeah, those are the only ones that I can think of. So that we
American Legion sign.
Anything close
American
to
Legion
that.
sign's in a little bit, and then like the old Legacy monument signs.
Yeah.
So not one that's a direct parallel to something like this. If the council would like, we can discuss it more internally and look at developing a policy to bring back to the council for consideration.
I just want to make sure that we stay consistent, like I said, and treat everybody fairly. I mean, I think, when you're talking about taking city property, using it for commercial use.
Mm-hmm.
That's my 2 cents on it. Everybody may feel differently.
So is it I just want to clarify. So we don't want to put this as for a public hearing for encroachment. Do we want to have more discussion on this at the next council meeting? Do you want?
Does anybody have any other thoughts on this? Or?
Public hearing.
I personally don't think a lease would be necessary in this particular instance. It's not city property that can be used. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I could see where you're making a point where, yes, maybe in the future, some property, if business needs to use it, usable land, but this is not usable land at all. They're going to have the expense of putting in the side or the parking lot, and if there's any retaining wall needs to be made, be at their expense, and then if there is any interference with the trail, it was going to be in there that it's their expense. So I don't see an issue with it myself.
We do have encroachments in the right-of-way as far as whether it's a retaining wall behind the walk. We have encroachments up in the uptown as far as the dining areas.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so you've got a lot of examples, and I'm pretty sure we've not ever charged for those. I'm just adding to the conversation, and so it might not be a bad idea that we put a policy together for that, but in this instance,
It's of no value, truthfully. That piece of land, you know what?
I mean, it's good to have the discussion, because then we've thought about it, and, makes me feel better that we've had the conversation, and we've come up with what we all agree is reasonable.
But I want to go back to that property to the east. Do we need to do something about that encroachment? Do we need to do the same process with that property and saying there needs to be an easement done?
Yeah, we'd have to do a little investigating to see if there was anything that was related to that particular one. I know we've been combing through a lot of the records related to the railroad on some other property issues, so we probably have a little more to do.
Okay.
But anytime they're using property like that, we would want to make sure that there's something on the books, even though we're not generally held liable unless we have constructive notice that there's a problem in a location like that. Best to have something on the books, even if it's something as simple as a hold harmless, to make sure that we're protected for that type of use of publicly owned property.
And this is a receive and file anyway.
Yeah, but she's
Not on
asking to put it on the agenda to set it for public hearing as granting an encroachment. At the very least, I would say not to make it a permanent easement. I mean, make it personal to this owner and this business, and let's reconsider it if there's another use or redevelopment of the property or whatever. So.
Now that you bring it up too, maybe the businesses that are having the easements on the sidewalks uptown that are using it for commercial use, maybe they need to pay a lease payment.
Maybe they do. I don't know. I mean,
Maybe. That's usable space.
Much more valuable property.
I don't know. Okay.
Thank you.
Administration. Lon, is there somewhere around here the naming of the alley? I didn't see it.
I had put in my memo to the council, I'd outlined the names and
Oh,
asked
but
the
it's not
council
in
to
here.
provide you
Okay.
with any other potential names, and then we'll bring that forward on the next council meeting.
Oh, I thought we were discussing it tonight too, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, you certainly could. I mean, we're looking for feedback if there's any more beyond the ones that were identified in that list that should be up for consideration, but looking to have that action taken by council on that at the first set of meetings in May.
Okay. Be clear on that one? So you have till then to weigh in with your ideas or opinions or... Okay.
Okay, the first 5 items under administration are all related. There will be a public hearing on Thursday regarding an amendment to the Central Corridor Urban Renewal Plan, and that will also include the approval of a restated plan for the Central Corridor. So anytime the city considers going into a development agreement with any business, we do need to amend the urban renewal plan accordingly. So I think numbers 4 and 5 are both set dates for public hearings for 2 development agreements that will be considered. One is for Ramsey's and the other is for Barker Financial, which is up on 7th Avenue. The consideration for Ramsey's is $10,600 and Barker is not to exceed $301,000. So you will get development agreements at the next council meeting for your consideration, as well as the public hearings. So for the restated plan, if you I don't know where to go. I never use this thing. Okay. So back in 2014, the Central Corridor Urban Renewal Area and the Collins Road Urban Renewal Area were consolidated into one district due to a court decision that our TIF attorney advised us to repeal that and separate them back into 2 separate districts, and that was done in 2016. What we're doing now is just clarifying the boundaries of each of those districts and making sure that they don't overlap. Collins Road will come before you in the future as soon as this one is complete. We're just doing one at a time. So the red area and the blue area that you see here is what the Central Corridor area looked like since 2010 all the way up until the consolidation. The two yellow areas are what we would like to add to the Central Corridor right now. This area to the west is already included in the Collins Road urban renewal area, so we're just moving it to Central Corridor instead. This area would be brand new as part of the Central Corridor urban renewal area, and I believe it is the site of the current YMCA. This blue area will be deleted from Central Corridor and then amended into the Collins Road urban renewal area once we get to that in coming months. So this then will be what the new area looks like for Central Corridor. Do you have any questions about that?
What's the far right street on the red there? Is that 35th?
Yes, 35th. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it doesn't cover the abode, the bank and the Casey's store and all that?
No, so that is currently included in Central Corridor. Those are all in this blue area here, which will be moved into Collins Road. So we just don't want the overlap with the districts anymore.
Collins Road?
To Collins Road Extension Urban Renewal Area.
Oh.
That area originally, Joe, was inadvertently put into both districts. But because the Collins Road district was the first one there, anything that we've done with that, Lynn County is attributed to Collins Road. And so we're cleaning it up to make sure that we're consistent with Lynn County and cleaning up any areas where the two districts might have had any overlap so that we're very clear and Lynn County understands exactly what we're trying to do with this. The other thing that we're doing as part of this is any project that was written against the Marion Commerce Corridor District has to land in its appropriate home. So we're also assigning all of the existing TIF projects to their appropriate district, whether it's Central Corridor or whether it's Collins Road. So like the area in the to the left where the yellow is, we've got Full Circle and TWG are both out in that area. So it needs to be moved added to the Central Corridor, and then those projects become part of the Central Corridor district. So we're really doing a lot of cleanup and just making sure that we're being very deliberate and very thorough to do everything correctly.
Yeah, okay. But I know there's still, the bode's still looking to develop south of that
Yep.
area.
So that would be in the Collins Road area, and that's not shown on this map at all. That'll come to you as soon as this process is complete.
Yeah, that's why I was asking.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I was asking that.
Yeah, that blue area will go into the Collins Road urban renewal area as part of the separation.
So
Just confusing when we call it that, Joe.
Collins Road and 35th Street south.
Why would that section not be part of the Central Corridor?
I'm glad you asked that, Will.
Well, it was written against, it was technically in both of them, so it was overlapping. I think it's a capacity issue. I think we have more capacity in the Collins Road because that's where it's currently
There's two issues really associated with it. The Collins Road district is an older district that was established pre-1995, so it still operates underneath the old rules. The Central Corridor district was established under the new rules, and one of the idiosyncrasies of that coming out of the TIF law change in 2010 was a limitation on how long your districts can last, which in and of itself isn't a bad thing, but under the old law like Collins Road, if Collins Road had a 20-year life, in year 20, you could do a TIF agreement with a business that could last 20 years. In Central Corridor, the 20-year clock started ticking the very first project that we did for the entire district. So you've got a district out there now that already has maybe 6 years worth of life gone, so you only have 14 years left. So if you have a project that needs 15 years, you can't do it in that district. By moving that blue area to the left of Lincoln View into Collins Road, we reset the clock for all of that area where the hotel is going to be done, and all of GLD, the north side where Marion Iron used to be. So from day one, when we first certified debt against that, we still have 20 years. So it's strictly a move to make sure that we've got the full 20 years available for that entire area, depending on how long it takes for it to fully develop out. My worry is if we get another 5 or 6 years in, well, all of a sudden you can only go 9 years on any deals, and as we know from these brownfield ones that are very complicated, that just might not be enough to make it happen.
Gotcha. Makes total sense.
So since you said that line, so all the development that's in that abode, like the Casey's or whatever, and the bank and all that, will their TIF be reset, or will it keep going?
Yes, we'll reassign it to the Collins Road.
No, but I meant the actual dollar amount. Will it go back to year zero again?
No, because it was already established as the base year in Collins Road under the old TIF district, that base still stays the same.
Okay,
so that's all. That one won't see any change at all. Lynn County had already been attributing it to Collins Road rather than Central Corridor, so we're just changing the boundaries to be consistent with how they've done it. And what it really is, we sometimes use the two terms interchangeably, but urban renewal areas and TIF districts are different animals. A single urban renewal area can have multiple TIF districts in it. So when the Central Corridor urban renewal area was adopted, it overlapped with Collins Road at that location. But the TIF district was never created because there was already an existing one. So it's always, Lynn County has always called it part of Collins Road TIF, even though for our purposes it was in the Central Corridor and Collins Road urban renewal areas.
Yeah, and I guess to kind of jump off that, though we're adding all of this right now, this is the only net new area up here to an urban renewal area in Marion, because all of this is already included, but it's in Collins Road. So this is the only one where there will be an impact to the base.
So as long as if commercial comes on Armour Plaza, we don't call it 35th Street development, okay? Please.
But this is why all of this stuff we're getting into is why we are being very deliberate and very careful to make sure that we do this separation correctly. Because even though all of us that are involved right now might understand it, we want to make sure that in 10 years or 15 years, when somebody's looking it up, it still makes sense.
So the new section where the YMCA is up there, so if that's going into the Central Corridor, which only has 14 years, you said, of...
That actually, because it's new, would reset the clock at 20 from when you first certify a debt.
For just that section?
Yeah, just that section.
Okay. Learn something new every day.
Any more questions on that one? All right. Okay.
So what does that take us
Number
up
2?
To number 6.
Oh.
Okay. 6 and 8
Thanks.
are both new documents that we have created to really assist with the tax increment financing process. If you want to think of them as kind of development agreement light, they really are, but they're memorandums of understanding between us and a commercial developer that set out the parameters of what we expect to put into a development agreement. They are not a formal commitment on the part of the City Council to provide that, because we still have the legal process that we need to go through, but they are documents that are intended to provide a measure of assurance to them, so that if they have to clear a real estate contingency or work with a bank or be able to proceed with a real estate closing before we can get done with the TIF process, that they're able to do so. So when we've presented these to council, these are the first places where we're actually putting down in paper in a document for the council to approve what we intend to provide for these 2 development projects. So one is with GLD for the hotel. There's actually 2 related to GLD, 6 and 7. One is the hotel. The other one is the commercial project around it, the 17,500 square feet of combined retail and commercial space. And then the one under number 8 is with the 15113 group for the Water Rock development out on the driving range. So there's still the statutory process that we have to go through, but one of the things that we're always wanting to do is to make sure that we can be responsive to the needs of a business while acknowledging that to get through the TIF process takes 6 to 8 weeks. Questions on those?
Residential building cost per square foot. What's residential building cost per square foot? Showing 140
One of the items that was approved in the budget this year was a pretty significant change to the way that Marion, that bus service is provided in Marion. We've always had a north and a south route in Marion, originating out of Cedar Rapids, that provided opportunities for people to use bus service. With the new budget year coming, we're looking at transitioning over to a circulator route. I understand this is a little tough to see with the dark color that it's in, but that purple loop is what the Cedar Rapids Transit is recommending for a circulator route. This would allow the buses to touch every stop on about an hour every hour versus the current 90 minutes. So the frequency of availability of buses is going to increase quite a bit. It is predicated on the idea, though, that everybody to move or get into downtown Cedar Rapids or take the First Avenue route, they'll have to do transfers over at Lindale Mall as part of this. It does allow us for the first time to get an extension over to the Marion Enterprise Center, which was a significant concern that Medco has been bringing forth, and it allows us capacity to go north of 29th Avenue for the first time. In talking with Brad, who is here this afternoon, I think the total estimated time for the route right now is about 52 minutes. And so that gives them a little bit of cushion for bad weather days, or if you've got a little bit of extra time for people doing the transfer, to be able to comfortably make that 1 hour route. With the Water Rock development, one of the things that will be possible once those signals get in is to actually also go over by Squaw Creek Mobile Village to be able to have a bus stop over there as well. In addition to the multifamily phase of their development, at least one of the companies that they are working with that could potentially be an office user out there won't come unless there's public transit available. So it's critical for us to be able to have that extra capacity in the route to hopefully be able to pick up one of those in the future. But the transit agency, unless you've got a signal, it's not safe for them to be able to pull out and make a left-hand turn at traffic that's coming at those speeds or at those volumes. So those will have to be in before that could occur. One of the proposals that they brought forward in addition to that would actually be to extend one of their current routes, and this is based off of some user feedback that they took about the changes from the circulator to the other route. With the old routes, with the two routes, if you were up here at one of these stops and, for example, missed the bus, you might know that you could walk into Uptown Marion and just catch the bus there, and still, people that use it frequently would know that, okay, it's a 15-minute walk for me to get there, but the bus is going to be there in 25 minutes, so I can just walk down there and catch it. So in deference to that, what they had proposed was the idea of extending one of their existing routes to come in and make a loop just in Marion's Uptown area to provide that opportunity. And I think that this one would be coming in around every 20 minutes, so fairly frequent. Both of them add a pretty good number of miles per year to the amount of driving that they have to do in Marion. I think when we discussed this one at the staff level, this adds about another $150,000 a year towards our expenses that we have right now. Cedar Rapids had proposed to continue to phase that in over a period of a couple of years. I think the prevailing opinion, though, at the staff level was, without knowing for sure how this one is going to work, that we thought it was a little premature to be jumping into adding another service. Even at looking at doing it on a trial basis, there was a concern that if you start to offer it and it's there, and then it turns out that you, even if you don't think that there's a huge need for it and you take it away, the perception that you're taking away something that they've already had, even for a limited number of users, isn't going to be very popular. So our recommendation would be to implement the circulator route first and give it a trial period, whether that's 6 months, whether it's a year, and see what the actual usage is, how people respond to the change, and if that is an issue.
Is there added cost with the circular route than what we have
Circulator
now?
route does add about $150,000 a year to our costs, but the budget calls for it to be phased in at $75,000 a year over the next 2 years. So it's already budgeted for the coming fiscal year.
Okay.
Yep.
The east side north-south run, is that 35th Street? Yeah, 35th. And then what's the west side? Okay, 10th, okay. So basically between 10th and 35th.
Yeah, Brad's done a lot of research and looking at the potential routes around town for where the stops could be and coming up with a way that stays within that 1 hour parameter, still gets everybody out to Lindale, but also tries to stay basically within about a block of where the existing stops are so that people don't have to make a huge transition. So, you know, maybe a stop that used to be on 6th Avenue might now be on 5th Avenue. But trying to make sure that we've got service at least approximating where the two routes used to be.
How close is the south side one to the new, that seniors living, the new senior living?
Zoom in a little bit closer.
Yeah,
So
it's
that is going in right
there.
There.
So that's probably a couple of 4 blocks maybe.
So it's right there.
Because we're putting a sidewalk along East Post down to that sidewalk.
Mm-hmm.
We did, yeah.
Yep.
That was last year.
Yeah. So, pretty good hike, but.
Yeah, and that area down there is one of our more heavily traveled stops, as I recall. We've got a pretty good presence of multifamily buildings down there already, so there's quite a few users or trips that originate and end down there.
And it goes out where Medco wanted it to be?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, it gets out to 62nd. And the police department had also asked that we have availability of public transit to that side of the highway as well. As the council knows, there's no facilities for pedestrians to be able to cross either 13 or 151 right now. There's no pedestrian signals or anything like that. So having public transit is a pretty big deal to help people get across there safely.
Save on squad cars, just have them ride the bus, right? I like it. In 50 minutes, we'll be there.
Do we ever have a monitor, if we were to do that one, and do they know how many people get on the bus on 62nd Street to find out if that pays to do that?
That's one thing that they're always increasing their capabilities of being able to do. When we've looked at our existing ones, the transit service has gone through and they've actually manually done counts for people that are getting on and off at all the various locations. I think it's been probably, Brad, maybe a year and a half since we last looked at that.
What if they found that no one got on the bus out there? What would they do then? We still charge us all the money?
Well, that's one of the things that we've always really taken a look at is what stops are being used. When we start looking at newly developing areas in the community or we get a request from someone for a stop, we'll take a look and say, okay, on South 11th Street we've got 2 stops within 4 blocks and there's only been 4 people per week that are using this one, but there's 15 at the next one. We might eliminate that stop to be able to add another stop. Out here, For me, especially going into a commercial and industrial area like that, it's probably kind of a chicken and egg thing because right now the service isn't available, so people don't even think of it as an option. So you may start offering it, and then as more people realize that it's available, it'll start to increase in frequency. I think going north to the new development along Water Rock is likely to drive usership out in that area as well, especially if they have office users that are specifically asking to have that type of service available. And the new multifamily that would be planned literally right where that X is could be a potential driver for traffic up there as well.
That's okay. I have a question. It's not about the routes, but it's just about, do we have signs at the stops about what time the bus will arrive there? Because I tried to use the bus one day, and I'm used to that, to going to a bus stop and seeing what time the bus is going to come. But there was nothing. So, I mean...
Yeah, I don't believe that they do, but there is Transit has an app now that will allow you to actually track the buses.
You have to be sophisticated, but a lot of people might not. They just might want to just know what,
I'm not sure that could be put on Councilman Draper's phone.
But I mean...
They can't.
I'm just surprised that it's not posted, that, some people might not have the phone and...
Well, with the reorientation of routes and having to post new signs, that may be an opportunity for us to look at that.
So.
As a lot of them will be moving, and we'll have to do some communication to the current riders to let them know where they're going to be.
Is there like a brochure or something at the library that they can pick?
You can pick it up when you get on the bus, I think.
Oh, it's on the bus, okay.
That's a good point.
And the library, too.
But if there's no sign what time the bus comes...
Especially where they have a shelter, you'd think they could post it in there.
And they will, like I said, they will be more frequent now. They'll be on a 1-hour route instead of the current 90 minutes, so there'll be more service available.
So what, are you looking for anything on Thursday on this, or this is just a discussion?
Just wanted to have a discussion with council about it to get some feedback on it. The idea of bringing the route into the uptown was not something that was part of the discussions during budget, so I wanted to see if the council had any strong feelings about whether we should offer that, whether we should wait, and it had never been presented to you formally before.
And that one is an additional, like 150?
Could be additional.
Okay.
Yeah. Wow. Right now we're looking at, we'll be catching up 75,000 next year, 75,000 the year after that. It would add 2 more years of those types of increases in order to be able to be fully funding it. And to their credit, I mean, right now, what that essentially means is that Cedar Rapids would be willing to subsidize the service in the interests of offering it. We would just have to realize, what the ultimate impact of that was going to be for us on the overall budget.
I mean, it's just, you would expect, when you think about transit service, you'd expect to see a bus stopping in your downtown. I mean, that's just, but maybe it's not used very often, I don't know. It's just, I mean, if you had to, so your first guess would be, it comes through downtown and it stops in your downtown. But doesn't mean that
Could pay for him to take a cab for $75,000.
So there's where your current route, or the circulator route, would come through.
So it wouldn't even be on 7th. Right? The yellow line's 7th, isn't it? Yeah.
Yellow line here is 7th. So
Okay.
coming in on 8th,
7th
this is actually the out route. So coming down 10th, turning.
Okay, so it does come through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it touches the uptown area a couple of times.
All right, that's good.
Comes in, hits it, moves south.
Currently, the people that you see coming up here, they're changing buses, right, to catch the one that goes to Lindale? Is that currently what? Because, I mean, I used to see people all the time standing there waiting on the bus.
There's probably some that do transfer. Some may just jump on the one route and stay on that route, though.
So they'll pull off. Sorry, go ahead.
But this one would not be, there wouldn't be any transfers. I mean, the bus you're on goes all the way to Lindale.
Just at Lindale. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the 11th Street pull off, whatever you want to call it, uptown on 7th Ave wouldn't be a stop anymore.
Right. And in all honesty, I think the transit service prefers to not have those types of bus pull-offs anymore. It's more difficult to merge. If you look at a lot of the more recent ones, they're either right near a crosswalk or they're right at the edge of the road near a traffic signal or something like that where they can stop and people can get in without having to pull off and then merge back into moving traffic.
Crazy 7th Avenue drivers that done had their coffee yet. You got to watch out for them.
Well, I mean, we won't know exactly how it's going to work till we try it, but
Right.
I mean, this seemed to make sense when we talked about it before, and
Yeah, and I think, they're looking to make their plans for the changes that they're going to have to make to their routes too with the addition of the circulator. But if we get 3 months in and we find that there's a huge demand for people to have that piece coming into the uptown and making the loop and then going back down First Avenue, I would think it would be something that could still be added.
okay.
I have a bus stop at Wits End and Aurora Coffee.
Where does that go? The loop that would be First Avenue uptown and back. Where does it head when it gets back into Cedar Rapids?
Yeah, come on.
Just curious, because if there's going to be more residential uptown, it might be good in the next couple of years to have, depending on where it goes. If it just goes to Lindale, then
This is Brad DeBrouwer from Cedar Rapids
Hi,
Transit.
Brad. Welcome.
Good afternoon. The proposal here would be, we would continue from Lindale Mall down Marion Boulevard, and we would, once we get to the roundabout, we would veer off to 6th Avenue, and then bring 6th Avenue up to 15th, and then get back on 7th Avenue and use to pull off the current bus stop right now and then back inbound. And our proposal is, we had an all-day open house down at the Ground Transportation Center when we proposed all the different route changes, both in Cedar Rapids here in Marion and Hiawatha. And that was one of the comments that we received from Marion residents was the circulator route, although it will provide a benefit for that internal circulation, which I pitched to you back in October, something along that line. The concern that we had was the transfer, and if we could at least get to the heart of uptown Marion and have that connection through along the corridor as far as First Avenue all the way into uptown Marion, because the frequency would be every 20 minutes, you would have the opportunity to go and catch that bus more often. And individuals are willing to walk farther because that frequency is there. If you see the taillights of the bus, you didn't just miss the bus. It's not another 90 minutes. It's not another 60 minutes. It would just be another 20 minutes behind that one. And frequency is critical on transit. It's we like to equate that for drivers of your own personal vehicle. It's like having a gate at the end of your driveway. The more often that gate opens, the more access that you have to using your vehicle. And that same thing holds true with frequency on transit. And so our proposal was go forward with the circulator route, but to go ahead and extend this service to Marion on a trial basis. I understand Lon's point perfectly. I mean, if it's out there and it's not utilized and it's taken away, we deal with that sort of situation. You always, it's harder to take something away than it is to go and put it out there. But we would be willing to go ahead and have that on a trial basis. And as Lon said, our proposal would be to go ahead and extend that for a number of years, that $75,000 increase to get to get it to a break even again. But the routing itself, as far as you had the question downtown, as far as the circulator route, we would also be bringing that off of 8th Avenue to the roundabout off of 7th onto 6th, bring it up to the library, and then go south on 11th from there. And then when we come back inbound, after we hit Lindmore High School, we'd come down 10th Street back to either 7th Avenue. If the circulator is added, then we would probably take it down to 5th Avenue so we wouldn't have to put the bus on top of itself as far as the service on 7th Avenue between Uptown Marion and Lindale Mall. So that's our pitch.
But then the blue line there, does that take you all the way downtown Cedar Rapids?
It wouldn't.
So it's a constant loop.
That's the idea that we have is a 20-minute frequency between downtown Cedar Rapids to the Ground Transportation Center, so you can transfer to any other bus on the system from Uptown Marion. And so we just have it all day long. And then ideally, we would see that extended. It would be 20 minutes. We have 3 buses on that route, so it's an hour route, round trip, 20 minutes. We could very easily, if the growth is there, if the city of Marion desires it, we could continue on out 7th Avenue all the way out to the industrial park. eventually, if that's something that you see the growth on or the desire for. And that we really see, First Avenue is our backbone of the Cedar Rapids system to the mall and back. That's our heaviest route. And that was the big idea that we wanted to go and get to, was go from 30-minute frequency and then having a loop in Marion, a loop on the north side, the south side, and then through the Hiawatha and northeast Cedar Rapids, to have that frequency on First Avenue. The 20-minute frequency is what we're really striving for. We just thought it was going to be a real benefit to extend that into Marion as well. There is a cost, frequency, because it's a cost involved with that, no question about that. Every 20 minutes it adds up. But it also, frequency creates demand. And we had folks that lived down in south on Meadowview that made the impression on us that whether they live in the zoo on the north or the apartments in the south, if we can get them to uptown Marion, they'll walk that distance even if they can't catch that circulator. They aren't going to be dependent on one-time transfer at the mall that way. So, again, that's why we're saying we would be willing to try this for a year and look at it. And we think, we can put the resources elsewhere in the Cedar Rapids metro area as far as making that 1 hour route work. But we just think that on the overall system and just looking at it from a regional perspective, this makes the most sense as far as connecting uptown Marion and downtown Cedar Rapids.
Thank you.
I guess my question on that would be, willing to do the trial on it now, but can we have that trial in 2 years? If there's however many apartments right up here.
Well, and I think that was our thought on it, because, looking at the way these routes were going to lay out, for example, with this being the return route, somebody who misses the bus down here on a 1 hour frequency could reasonably walk to uptown and pick it up here on this piece coming this direction. Now, if you're up here, that's kind of the area where you don't necessarily have that opportunity, or if you do come down and pick it up, you're going to end up having to go through the whole route in order to be able to do that, versus the 20-minute frequency that Brad was talking about, where there'd be more opportunities to get on the buses. I guess our thought on it was, since this is going to be so new and you're already looking at a 50% increase in frequency the way that it is, give this one a try, and if we get 3 months in and determine that it's not meeting the needs and not working, then we could add the extension of the route into the uptown. We really wanted to see the impact that this one was going to have and how people adapt to it and start to use it first before committing to making that second change.
Sounds reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, other questions on that, or we discussed that enough? Okay. Number 10.
Number 10, we are in the next cycle of eligibility for applications for DOT, and we are looking for a resolution of support for DOT from the council for applications for funding for this year. We're looking at a couple of different components. One would be, there's 2 different funds that we can apply for. One is what they call the Vertical Infrastructure Fund, and then there's the Horizontal Infrastructure Fund. Vertical infrastructure typically includes anything above the ground, so buildings, hangars, fuel depots, anything like that. Horizontal infrastructure, that's your flat work, your driveways, your runways, design, things like that. Since we are going to be doing our contract for the land use plan amendment and the zoning ordinance update, what we'd like to do is apply for the Vertical Infrastructure Fund for a fueling depot, and then on the Horizontal Infrastructure Fund for 2 pieces. One would be for design on the east-west runway, and then land acquisition related to runway expansion. We have funding from the last round for design on the north-south runway, but one of the things that we want to do is make sure that the design of the east-west runway and the north-south mate up so that everything is looked at and studied together as a system. So applying for the funding to do that would allow us to get that piece done, and then whatever would be left over, which we're estimating would be about $250,000, could be applied towards land acquisition.
Good to me.
It's possible the fellow that stood out there and told us we weren't eligible for any funding or any, may not have been right then. Is that a fact?
Well, All I can tell you for sure is that some of the things that the council were told was that we were going to be getting a huge letter with all sorts of objections from the state to the ALP, and we got an email with 3 paragraphs in it. So far, their track record's not on predicting things isn't very good.
Okay.
Number 11, the council, we put out copies of the amended repurchase agreement for your consideration. Our attorney has reviewed it and is comfortable with the language in it. The one thing that I would point out is that the number is a little different. We've been talking about $910,000. In this case, it's moved to $920,000. I think they've incurred some additional expenses with extension agreements on purchase options and things like that, and that they have gotten more recent estimates on demolition costs. So it's proposed at $920,000 instead of the $910,000.
So our delay added a little bit more. I'm kidding.
So this is this would be the final.
Yes. Good on that? Number 14 is a resolution approving a contract with Target Solutions. The city has several different training that employees are required to take every year, and this is a solution to do that. We'll have Jen give you a little bit more details on it. She's the one who has done all the research on this and is making the recommendation.
I agree with that, but I also have to put a lot of this back on fire because they have been using Target Solutions for the last couple of years now, and they were, Deb is the one that introduced me this software to me, and so I want to extend it to the entire city. We don't have currently any way to track any kind of our training, any documentation. And this would just be a great utilization across the city. It's for training software. The biggest thing about it is that in this price, well, in the contract right now, what you see is $16,000. $6,000 of it is actually already been approved for fire. So it's really only addition of $10,000 for the rest of the city. And the biggest thing that I bulleted here are the ability to really track our training. More recently since I started, we had a request for somebody, show us all the training documents or training that this person has ever taken, when we were being sued for something. And we go into a file and it's just a paper file. There's like hardly anything there. This is really going to be able to show and prove everything that anybody has ever had. And the timeliness of, should anything come up, we can just go on the software, send out a notification to everybody that's appropriate, especially managers. We can immediately send it right out. They have a 30-day time period to make sure that they take the training, and then we can always just track that. And then along with it, the biggest thing is that there are thousands and thousands of trainings actually out there. So we also don't have necessarily, it depends on each department, a good tracking experience on what we do for safety. And a lot of times, like if somebody's been in an accident, we can follow up and say, okay, you backed into something. Here's a policy. Make sure you review our policy, or we changed the policy and the city policy. Here, I can send it out and make sure that everybody signs off on it. And it's just really a good way to track those kind of things. It also can go straight down, and Joe and Chief and the PD also sat in on it, and they find a lot of things that will be beneficial for it, while even down to tracking people's driver's license. We can put in when your driver's license expires. It'll remind us that you, and make sure that you get it updated at that time. So, there's so many capabilities of this, and it's part of why I'm so excited. And the biggest thing, again, it goes back to that fire is already on it, so for all of us to be on the same one, I don't have to have a big, once every June, have sexual harassment training here and make everybody come off and come in and sit here and listen to it. We can provide the training, which again, they have already different variations of sexual harassment training, and they can just do it on their own time and what's best for the department. And that's really big for public service too, who we can't necessarily take them all off at one time either. And So they'll have that ability to. We can still do large trainings if we need to, and then I can just go in and record that. But it's just going to be a really good program software for us to use. So I didn't know if anybody had any questions on that.
Well, I see that they offer a lot of trainings themselves as well. Is that a part of this?
Yes, absolutely, and that was the biggest reason why it costs so much sometimes, because especially with the training, they're OSHA regulated and stuff. So I don't have to go out and say, all right, this is going to be a safety policy. We already know that it's already OSHA approved, and I can tell you right now with Doug Wyman, the safety committee, he would come out and do trainings, but with everybody's time being time sensitive and only being able to have an hour off together, OSHA has also made comments that the training that we've had been able to provide so far really wouldn't stand up in court should anything actually happen to an employee. So these are going to really help with some of that as well. So.
Go ahead, Paul. No, the word mandatory. Is that our rule?
Who's mandating?
Some of it is ours, some of it is ours, some of it's required by CDLs, some of it's required by OSHA, some of it's required by IMWCA and our workers' compensation providers. So it's a variety of it, but we have a certain amount of training that everybody has to do on different topics throughout the course of the year. That's a requirement.
Okay. So we're looking at $82,000, that's a lot of money.
Where is all that information
For the
stored?
5 years.
Oh, sorry, yes. Yep. But if you think about it, again, we could come back with one big incident where we don't have proper training or maybe we had the proper training, but we didn't have the proper documentation to show that they had it done. Just one big claim could cost that or two, whatever. So.
One of the capabilities of the software is it has incident command 200 through 800 in it. As you progress through law enforcement and fire, you're required to go to different classes, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 800 on. And one of the goals for the department this year was to get everybody incident command certified, and that was going to be expense that I was going to have to outlay to send people to training. You get into per diem. All of those modules are in this. They also have modules on Word, Excel, PowerPoint, different type of safety things that are geared toward police and fire. Just when I saw the ICS, I was sold. Just because if I can take that off of my plate and have the officers go through ICS in the tiered approach as they progress through their career, it's a huge time saver for us, efficiency, accountability as we grow the capability of the department.
And I hate to always use this example, but the timeliness is so huge. If recently when Cedar Rapids School District, they had the teacher who, everything, all know the story. I read in an article, and one of the things was, it said, it turns out, that they were not properly trained on how to do this. And my immediate thing was, they didn't know how, they weren't properly trained on who to command, how to approach something when they were notified. And my first thing was thinking, I can only imagine so many schools across the board are like, oh, when was the last time we did this kind of training, things like that. And, should sexual harassment come up in a city, like, when was the last time we did something? Well, let's hurry and shoot this out, as opposed to right now, the process of trying to get everybody in, and then again to sign off on a thing. There's no way, another reason why this is so great is that we have the ability to provide questionnaires and actually prove competency, which a lot of time we have them all in one room. We can't prove that they were even really taking what we are telling them and actually applying it to but we can actually prove competency on it, and it really helps protect us in that manner as well.
So the information on the employees, is that stored locally or with this company?
I'm drawing a blank.
Because if you're starting to put personal information on it.
Oh, we are very limited on that, and they do not share that information or anything. That was one of Joe's biggest concerns, and they had some verbiage in the contract that said, if we put out any training documents, that they'll share it, and we just said anything anything that even had the word share in there with our instructor, we had that removed. We didn't care what it was, we just didn't want it to be a part of the contract. So, yeah, and I mean, we can be very strategic on what we actually put out there, personal information. I don't imagine we would put anything out there that would be any kind of violation. It would be just tracking documents. I mean, the most, like when I say the driver's license, the most that we're putting in is your expiration date, you know, and so nothing like that.
I believe training records and things like that are all public documents anyway, so it would only be if anything had to go into the system that was related to a personal tracking ID or something related to the employee, and I don't believe we have to do that. Is that correct, Chief?
That's correct.
Yeah, I just being paranoid with people being able to get stuff.
They
If I
can
had
ask
my
us
name in
now.
a system and, can anyone go in and get it, or is it closed to a city employee?
The public can ask now how much training every firefighter has had.
Yeah, but that's all though, right?
Right.
You can't get
He's
into.
thinking more personal information, personal to the employee.
Social
I think
Security,
someone mentioned
birth
driver's-
date, none of that is in that.
Yeah, so like driver's license and things like that.
Yep, that's not included.
Okay.
That was just my first example of an expiration, or certifications even. People who we know for your position, you have to be certified for this. We can put in constant reminders, did you actually get recertified? Again, we don't have to put in any of your information, your actual ID number or anything. It's just kind of, again, reminders and stuff. So there's just lots of reasons outside of just training alone that we can really utilize this. So that was my...
Well, I just didn't want to open up Pandora's window of everyone in the city and city employee.
Yeah, absolutely.
Having all their information. Well, that'd be a hacker's dream.
No, we're not going there.
So thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Number 15, and really through about 18 are all related to a new position that's being added this year. The budget included the approval of a new IT network engineer position. It's different than the IT manager and the IT tech positions that we have on there. More specific training related to network operations and the equipment and hardware associated with that. This is one that we had been contracting for those services with Marco for 16 hours a week. It's a pretty straightforward one for us. For about another $8,000 to $10,000 per year, we can actually have somebody full-time giving us that availability for 40 hours a week. So this is the job description. We'll file that and then establish the new pay range for that position.
I know one of the
Sorry, number 17 is actually unrelated. That's just an updated job description that the library is doing as part of their continuing efforts to modernize themselves.
One of the things with Marco, though, is that, we had 24-hour service and backup for when someone was gone.
Yeah, and we will still have that backup availability and everything, but this was 16 hours per week on site that we were paying for. So someone here doing physical work around it. And one of the things that we discovered is that while the technician they had here was very capable, a lot of the projects that he might get started into, he'd end up having to leave, and then Terrell would end up having to finish them. So we were pulling the manager who does the security and works with New World and all of our software environment off of what he was supposed to be doing to finish up those projects that were kind of halfway through. So this will give us a lot more availability for that.
So will this person have access to the storage facility out here as well to manage that?
I believe so. I mean, I think the manager and the network manager both would have to have that. I don't know if the tech does.
No, are you talking about where our servers are?
Yes.
No, the tech does not have access there.
He doesn't now, but will this position?
This position will, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, questions on that?
Not on that.
Something else?
Yeah, this is an extra thing. About a month ago, I made a motion to examine the council salary and a possible, and I think we're ready to vote on a council raise. So I wouldn't mind seeing that on the agenda for Thursday.
What was decided?
I agree. It would take over after the next election, but
Or do we
We've
know
talked
what it,
about
do we know what it is, or what's the
100,000 a year, right?
100,000 a year.
cost
yeah.
of living, or is it?
somewhere under 100,000, I think. I'm not sure.
Was someone going to look at it and come back with thoughts on it or ideas? Or?
Yeah, there are really a couple of different ways it could be done. It could be indexed to inflation, it could be cost of living, it could be indexed to the average of the union agreements. Really that would be up to council. If the intent is to index it, it's really just determining what factor you want it indexed to.
Well, the problem is, things that are not taken care of in a judicial amount of time tend to get lost, and I don't want this to get lost. I mean, it's not going to affect me, but it will affect the rest of you, so. I'm looking out for you guys.
Should it be raised annually like everything else?
Well,
or do you
Cedar
think there
Rapids
should
does
be?
a cost of living increase every year.
Do they?
I think the last raise was 5 years ago.
Might have been 2009 or 2010.
Yeah.
I was going to say, is there a dollar amount you want it to go up to now? Or do you just want it to start?
Just a percentage of what, like a cost of living increase every year. I mean, what would you get on Social Security? 71 cents a month?
Yeah, that's what Carolyn and I got a 71-cent raise this month on Social Security.
So that's what you want council to get?
Medicare went up $1.
Well, Medicare took the Social
right.
Security raise away. 71 cents, so at Burger King buys coffee a couple days. So.
Not for us younger kids.
I know. But
Anyway,
I would like
to see it on the agenda to vote on. That's what I would like to see. That's all.
Yeah.
Whoa.
That's what I'm
Said whatever amount it was last time, just make it increase the same dollar amount. That's an easy one.
Yeah, the last one was passed in 2010, so it took effect in 2012.
And that went up $100.
It will be here.
I'm sorry. For the council, it went from $358.33 a month to $400 a month.
$358.33.
That was about a 10% bump.
Weird number.
$4,300 a year to $4,800.
Well, take what the pay performance was and go that percentage.
Average?
Yeah.
Does that mean we get to do evaluations?
Sure, when we can do theirs.
Well, I think a motion could be made without it being on the agenda.
About the only thing you could do for Robert's Rules of Order would be to ask that it be placed on the next agenda. And if you want to do that, that's fine. Like I said, it's just really just a matter of if you want to index it, what do you want to index it to? The only thing I would say is, when it comes time to start talking about things like that, they may be of interest to certain council members, but remember, our driving goal is the strategic plan. If it's not something that you gave us direction to do in the strategic plan, yes, we will get to it, but it's not necessarily going to be the top priority when we've got other things that do support the strategic plan directly that we need to get to.
However, it did get brought up right after the first of the year because Mr. Draper brought it up. And nothing's been done. And like I said, it's not going to affect me, but the rest of you it will affect.
Nice if it was something that automatically happened, so we wouldn't have to bring it up. You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
get it
Like Cedar Rapids does.
get it done that way, maybe.
Exactly.
Yeah, the way to do that is to index it. It's just let us know what you
Yeah.
want to index it to, and it's easy.
I mean, you talk about 5%, you're not talking about any money collectively even, I mean, I don't know what Cedar Rapids is tied to, but.
I'll check and see what they have theirs tied to.
More money than.
They do.
Can that be done in a special meeting?
I don't know about that.
Talking about
And traditionally, there's always been, basically the mayor gets twice what the council members do as well. So what you'd probably do is index the council members, and then the mayors would fluctuate versus what the council members indexed ones would be.
Originally, I think when this was brought up, I don't remember how long ago, maybe 6.
Microphone, Jen. It's all recorded.
Maybe I'll ask Deb, if we put this off, can we do it on the special?
I was asked at some point to check in with other cities to see what everybody else had been doing, and Cedar Rapids is the only one that has the standard to do, a regular basis. I do agree that it would probably be best to just, like Kim said, to make it set, and so that you don't have to keep bringing it up and asking for a raise every few years. But I asked, like, all the surrounding cities, the people that we do our salary surveys with for the rest of the city, I asked them, and they are behind on times as well, and it's been 10, 15 years for most of them to even have any kind of increase at all. So it was really hard to, other than Cedar Rapids, to compare or get any other estimation of what a good recommendation number would be for you guys. So that's kind of what I left.
Do you recall what factor Cedar Rapids used, what they pulled against? Was it CPI?
Yes.
Okay.
I was like, I can't.
CPI.
CPI. Yep.
Cost of living.
Yep. So they went by that.
Well, it was okay when it was like 2 meetings a month, and that was it. But look at how much more time we put in between the library and the ward meetings and all the other stuff. I mean, it's gotten to be a time-consuming job. It's not just a figurehead thing.
Yeah, and I think I'm sure I kept all the documentation of all the other cities that, again, they just replied back, nope, they haven't had anything for 10, 20 years and stuff. So, or people were saying, I've been here for 20 years and I've never seen anything. So, again, not to say that that's what the standard we want to follow, but I just wanted to point that out so you guys knew that I did look into that, pass that along, and just we can go from there. So,
when I started in '74, it was $100 a month. That was it.
I would suggest the CPI, even though it's really low right now, it's like 1.6, 1.7, something like that right now. But, at least it's something that's every year you can count on it. So, you're not asking for anything outrageous. It's just, so that's my 2 cents worth.
So if you want a resolution on for Thursday to index the council wages to CPI, that's fine.
If council, whomever sits in these chairs, are going to vote every 2 or 3 years, you might as well not tie it to anything. You might as well say, put on the agenda that we want to increase our salary and the mayor's salary $50 a month. And you're done with it in 5 years from now, the council can, like they
Yeah, and it has to be approved as part of the budget process.
That's what I was going to say. Do you want to raise it to a certain dollar amount and then going forward, raises every off the CIP?
Every year.
CPI.
I think that's
CPI.
Well, we have enough backfill in the budget to handle that.
I'll find something we can do without.
I don't have a position on it. I'm fine either way.
All right.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I had a question for Devin. On the closed session, if we have it next week, can we still have a closed session on this?
Say that again?
If we put this, the motion to do the closed session off till next week as a special meeting, can we do it that way?
Yeah, as long as the appropriate posting and notice was satisfied.
This meet, then Thursday there wouldn't be a special?
That's correct.
Oh.
It wasn't originally supposed to be this Thursday. No, it was supposed to be May 4th.
Some of us have them in.
You're supposed to turn them in by this Thursday, and then we were going to go in special session on May 4th, it said on the
Well,
front.
whenever we do it, I think it'd be nice to just have some time to just, so we're not rushed and it's after a meeting and everybody wants to get home, so we can actually have good discussion and be fresh. And I mean,
You don't
I
wanna
would
do it
like,
after a meeting?
I would prefer to do it in an off week, so that we can, like I said, just have a meeting about this subject and to be able to just be fresh and not be kind of, fried after a meeting and be able to just, to have good conversation and.
But in the off weeks, I only wear pajamas, so.
That's fine. Come in your pajamas. We'll go to your house. No, I'm just kidding.
So
No.
is
But
this
that's just
Thursday
my
and next week.
is next Tuesday? Would that be amenable?
Or Thursday?
Or like the 27th?
That's a Thursday.
To have a special meeting.
Of April?
Yeah.
You're out of town all?
next week, yeah.
Yeah, we're here
Yeah, I'm out of town.
all that week.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
May Day.
let's,
My schedule's a little more flexible than some of you, so whenever you set it.
So if Kim's gone next week, then May 1st.
so the 4th is when we were supposed to get together and review them, is it? That was. Okay, well, let's put it off then,
To the 4th?
to either the 2nd or the 4th.
Or do you want to come in on the Monday night? Or a Monday, the 1st?
Well, Kim's gone all week.
She'll be back.
I'll be back.
That'll be the
by
next
then.
week.
I'll be back like Friday.
So you're saying the 1st? May 1st?
Well, if you don't want to do it on a council night,
Well,
then
that's, yeah.
we could do it. I mean, does it have to be night?
I want to know what you guys want to do. The 1st of May, okay to do it then?
That works for me.
It's fine.
Monday, May 1st.
I will let the council know that I'm scheduled to be at a different city council meeting for a different city on contract that night. So this isn't one that requires my presence to be there, as other exceptions would be. But just letting you know that my presence there may be questionable. Okay. I could possibly send a substitute, depending on their availability.
But did you say that someone has to be there or not?
Not for this exception,
Okay.
no. No, some of the exceptions to closed meeting, you have to have your attorney present, and this is one where you don't have to do that.
Okay.
What time?
Time?
What,
What time?
5 or 6 maybe?
Ask the guy that's going to have to travel.
Yes, maybe 6. Would that get you here?
Yeah, 5:30.
Somebody wake Dan up.
I can make any of those.
5:30? 5:30. Okay.
5:30 Monday the 1st. Beth, can you let
Yeah,
them
we'll
know
do the
that
notice for
we're
it.
moving that?
First at 5:30, is that what was said?
First at 5:30. All right.
All right. Thank you. Meeting is adjourned.
Oh, I had one question.
Oh, meeting's not adjourned.
Yeah.
Well,
so we'll
you
come
said
in
that
and
this was the
discuss
final
it.
draft of the
Yeah.
agreement. It still says 910 in there.
There's two components. There's the purchase agreement and then the repurchase agreement. I will check on that. It should have the same number in it.
8C says purchase price of 910, and I just skimmed it, so.
Okay,
I'll
meeting
read
is
for you.
adjourned.
Okay.